Love is a parasite. Coquette Dragoon. Cursed with misfortune from her very first breath in this world of endless war. The rabbit-eared Zhao's fate is changed forever as she is thrust into the prestigious life of a Dragoon pilot. A role only 1 in 10,000 qualify for. Raised aboard broken down ships without even gravity, she finds herself apart from her new peers native to the capital. How is she meant to accept a new life of status on the condition of service? Glistening cities, food eaten with cutlery, shared cigarettes in the grass, a cycle of day and night, the touch of fur. This is the world she has always hoped for, and the role she wanted the least. Surviving this war and surviving this alienation. Every step forward is another point of no return. Meanwhile, on the other side of the war, Honey and Belle navigate the suffocating complexities of their rigid aristocratic society. But can either of them escape the confines of the world they were born into? Featuring a vivid cast from both sides of a war, Coquette Dragoon explores the different lives and perspectives in a world beset by tragedy and those who seek love and connection as they escape from it. Featuring 3D animation from Chapter 3 onward, immersing the reader in Zhao's experience as a fledgling pilot and her relationship with an unfeeling war machine, each becoming a part of the other's mind. Originally developed as a comic, Coquette Dragoon is a serial visual novel combining comic and visual novel storytelling with 3D animation and backgrounds, featuring music from Octella and Clover and Sea Life, and 2D animation from Char. Chapter 1 was originally a comic, and this version uses a lot of the panels and art from its adapted into a new script. It's old and wasn't made at very high resolution, but I don't believe I should discard it entirely. Apologies for how crunchy some of it is, but it felt important to leave in. To speak a little personally, Coquette Dragoon is a labor of love to contribute to the genres I love. I want to create a work that can stand alongside my inspirations, not to enter the genre as an outsider attempting to fix it. I hope you can enjoy these characters and worlds that have spent a long time living in my head as much as I do. Coquette Dragoon is a work strictly for adult audiences, contains strong themes of self-harm and ideation, drug use, strong violence, gore, nudity, sexual content. Reader discretion is advised. To put it plainly, Coquette Dragoon is has a cute art style and a lot of gentle tones and scenes, but is not fluff. Murder, death, suicide, ideation, fetishes, abuse, incest, death, drug abuse, and other dark themes are present or will be presented in future volumes. So I have played Volume 1 already, so I know that that's completely safe to stream. Though this does have a category, and games that are banned on Twitch do not tend to have categories. Depending on how I feel after the first one, I will continue, but we'll just see. Capitalism? No thanks, I prefer the downfall of capitalism. Hello, Pravati. Welcome to stream. I also have my plushie and blanket with me and to help me give me comfort and hug onto. It's helping. Glad to hear it. You definitely need some comfort for this. Alright. Discussion of capitalism or critique of capitalism is a good content warning. Thank you for reflecting that and answering that for me, Lily. It is nice to know that it's kind of like how to put this, like sometimes I think that someone might be like, oh, you're complaining too much, but like, or like being overly sensitive or whatever, but like I've gone into like dark spirals. I've gone into dark spirals because of like discussions of capitalism and critiques of capitalism, and this is definitely like a hellscape. This is definitely a dystopia, more dystopic than what we're living in now. And Coquette Dragoon can stand with Heaven Will Be Mine, Evangelion, Witch from Mercury, and stuff like that, which all have really powerful critiques of things that we're living through now. I have a lot of time. I'm afraid a lot of time. I'm afraid a lot of the time to explore vulnerability with diapers, especially with games and stories. I'm afraid of the safety and vulnerability because I'm afraid of going back to what was before. Sorry for a bit of speaking into the void. I don't think that that's bad to talk about. I don't even mind that you didn't use the redeem, especially because it was topical because of the game I just played. And I think that Coquette Dragoon's theme that the author mentions of escaping, like, escapism through love, and I would hope, like, resiliency in surviving an unjust world, partially because of love, and some of that exploration of love, including stuff like kinks, I think is incredibly powerful. And so I think that that's relevant. I hope that the horror durability of this game is okay for you to navigate. It's again anyone else who feels vulnerable right now or might feel vulnerable because of what's gonna be talked about. Especially considering for some people watching this right now, it might be like really late at night and I guess welcome to Adult Swim. Welcome to Adult Diaper. This is definitely gonna be heavier than what Drizzle was playing yesterday, I think. What Drizzle and Dust were playing yesterday. Is Chrono Trigger heavy? I don't think Chrono Trigger's too heavy. From what I remember. Okay. I may have some darker moments, but it's not too heavy, I believe. I guess I'm referring to what was played so far. And I think the game that Drizzle was playing wasn't too heavy either. Seed Sewing Circle by Ivy May. Coquette is a work of fiction for adults only. Reader discretion is advised. Galak cast. Okay, if I read any of this, it'll give away spoilers. And I redeemed to Speak Into the Void, and so I want to mention so it didn't get buried. Oh, I'm sorry, because you said sorry for speaking into the void, and I thought you meant like in what you said. Ah, I read the second half of it. I'm sorry. I definitely relate to struggling to connect with my little side because I think I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid of getting scared and little and needing comfort and touch because there's nobody here to help with that. And also, I need to also take care of myself. Take care of myself on my own. I can't do that well when I regress emotionally and mentally. I think this is a valid trigger warning. Thank you for sharing that. Sorry for missing it before. When you phrased the sorry for speaking into the void, or at least that's what I thought I read. I felt like... Oh, you're saying sorry for a bit more speaking to the void. Now I read it over. We don't usually have people apologize for speaking into the void, so the context had been a little bit different in my head because of what I was expecting, because I didn't see the redeem. Thank you. Okay. We're gonna get started now. Love is a parasite. Coquette Dragoon. Armed with revolver and sword, a tall, royal white dragoon sailed through the duchy territory space, accompanied by its black and gold trimmed guard. Within the cockpit of the Pegasus sat Crown Princess Emile de Lucia, feet kicked up nonchalantly, a scowl forming on her face. To her, this was nothing more than a tiresome social obligation. Ahead of the pair was a procession of duchy dragoons preparing for battle. Among the soldiers, banners flew high and ceremonial swords gleamed. For such a small force, it was rather an odd display of regality. Emile chewed on her lip. Of course, it was put together to impress her. At the forefront of the group flew a bold, dog-like dragoon, brandishing a sword and a shield. Emile descended to join the formation, taking her position by the leader. An image of an eager-looking queen appeared in her cockpit. Your Grace, it's such an absolute pleasure to have you here with us. The pilot of the dog-like promate was Baron Mosaic Grey. Emile found every single thing about him unbearably disgusting. It's a pleasure to see you here. I'm looking forward to being able to witness your bravery firsthand. Emile swung back to him with a smile. The black and gold dragoon trailing Emile matched speed beside her and opened their private channel. Your Grace, is it really a wise decision for you to get so close to the enemy? The pilot scolded her in a detached monotone. You're such a worrywart, honey. We'll keep our distance. After all, we're just here to observe Baron Grey's glorious victory. Of course, Your Grace. And don't call me any of those annoying titles in private. It makes me ill. My apologies, Emile. Emile pouted. Thank you. Custard and pastry. Love and hate. Good and evil. S&M. I'm Millie. And I'm Philly. And we are Millie and Philly. Together, we made our TV debut, so I'm excited to be here. Me too. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you good little spacefarers picked Thank you for tuning in. Have you good little spacefarers picked a favorite yet? It's me, right? Right? Give it a rest, would you? I'm right though, aren't I? I'm the cute, fun one. Everyone's gonna like me. And you're the boring one with nothing going on but sex appeal. You little. Within the light-like fleet, a small animated passenger shuttle sailed through the rows of warships. The television screens on the empty rows of seats all displayed the same image of a colorful daytime talk show, upbeat music echoing through the cabin. Arms outstretched and without gravity, a bunny-eared Zhao twirled through the air in elation. Zhao, would you sit down? Fluffle scolded her. How can I sit down? This whole shuttle is just for us. A direct flight all the way to the capital? How many people you think they would do that for? Special treatment like this? Isn't this the kind of thing we've been waiting for? This is just the beginning. We'll have money, clean air, our own room, real food. I'll have to get used to living in gravity. We'll have that too. I finally get to take a real shower. I've always wanted to try a bathtub too. Fluffy flitted in front of Zhao's face. But aren't you scared? Like I said, we'll work it out. I'm never going back to that filthy ship. It's not like I really want to be a pilot, but I can't pass this up. I never had a chance like this. Zhao's eyes lit up as she glanced towards the window. Fluffy, look! Zhao darted to the window, pressing against it for a better look. A leviathan of a ship came into view, its figure dwarfing even the largest of the battleships surrounding it. It's the Zephyraltes. I knew it was big, but wow! I'll be living inside of that. Isn't that exciting? What do you think it's like living inside? Oh, but you see it all the time on TV, though. The Duchy Dragoons took position in the shadows of the asteroid field, rifles raised at the enemy fleet below. Emil had never seen an enemy fleet so close before. Their modern ships were all ugly, hastily assembled piles of scrap. Their liveries, bizarre splashes of color as if to distract from their poor construction. Small shuttles darted between the ships, Emil's FCS lighting up with potential targets. Half the reason she came was to get a chance to assess the enemy with her own eyes. And they really didn't seem anything special. But, looking into the distance, where the rows of ships continued, and continued, their numbers seemed truly endless. It wasn't hard to picture the bloodbath that would result from a full-scale invasion. And it was their oldest ship that presented the biggest problem. The lilac capital, Zephyraltes, was more than a safe distance away, but the sight of it made Emil gnaw at her finger. The sole remaining Ultra Dreadnought-class capital ship from the very beginning of the war. The slow-beating heart of the fleet that had become a nation. It was a fully autonomous war machine. Entire cities laying within its breast, towering over the surrounding ships at a scale of well over 1,000 to 1. It was a feat of engineering on a scale that could never be replicated in the modern era. What kind of weapon could she produce? What kind of weapon could she produce that would even put a dent in a warship the size of a continent? Even without the rest of this fleet, that monster could flatten the Duchy if Lilac ever figured out how to move it. Grace smirked. You know, I was expecting to be able to just walk in right like this, but it's a little embarrassing for them that we can actually do it. I'm not sure collecting a few trophies is gonna be a challenge worthy of your praise, Your Grace. You're not getting cold feet, are you? Of course not. Gray raised his sword. All units, aim! Fire! Emil watched as the smaller lilac vessels erupted in the light. A poor shuttle caught in the fire destroyed in an instant. Lilac Dragoons shot out of the hangar bays and flight decks, the full impression of the fleet changing in an instant. The Lilac Dragoons were as rudimentary as their ships, and painted in even uglier colors. To Emil, they looked like children's toy figures. Flashes of light from Lilac's wretched beam weapons reduced anything caught in their path to ash. These ugly ships. And ugly toy figures? No matter how much Emil derided their appearance, their ability was the real thing. Emil watched as a lilac pilot brushed aside a sword strike and crushed the cockpit of a Dutchy Dragoon with nothing more than a rifle stock, firing a volley into the wound for good measure. She clenched the controls in front of her, itching to dash forward and start cutting the lilac mutts in half. But being anything more than an observer here would place her under scrutiny for the mission's inevitable outcome. She was loath to admit it, but it wasn't like a princess could start giving out orders either. These were the Baron's private forces, not hers. The sole bodyguard flying at her side was the only soldier she had under her direct command, and even then, she ultimately answered to her mother like everyone else. She watched a Lilac Dragoon tear open the chest of another of the Baron's soldiers. Their fighting style was restless and uncontrolled. As the Lilac pilots closed in, the scene quickly became a bloody melee of limb torn from mechanical limb and split open chests. They weren't formally trained, nor were they under the command of any master tactician. Their intent and ability was implanted through a machine interface, and their power to kill came to them like instinct. Emil wasn't someone who really believed in ideals of honorable combat, but the Lilac's methods were truly detestable. What an ugly sight this all is. Permission to fire? Go ahead. I'll just say it was Gray's orders. Lilac Fleet Special Division Dragoon Command Control Room. Within the depths of the Zamaralthis, a naval officer leant over the radar displays with gritted teeth. They came in close? Are they out of their minds? Sir, we're picking up an automated distress signal from a shuttle that belongs to our division, very close to the enemy position. Ignore it. Order all units to prioritize defending our ships before mounting any rescues of non-combatants. If they're hit directly, they're dead already. Yes, sir. Oxygen loss detected. Suit compromised. Self-seal system activate. User injury detected. Inertial dampening active. Distress beacon active. Seek help immediately. Repeat. Seek help immediately. Zal gasped for air as she regained her consciousness. The suit's warnings buzzing in her ears. There was a flash of light, and then the shell interior was gone. Her shoulder burned. Looking down, she winced as she saw a shard of metal jutting out from her body. Blood splattered on the torn spacesuit around it. The automatic self-seal of the suit had stuck itself to the shrapnel, liquid plastic melting the suit against her wound. An automatic pressure system formed a tourniquet around the wound, crushing her shoulder. Zal breathed shakily, desperate to try and calm herself and find her bearings. Another flash of light engulfed her view, her body recoiling from the wave of heat throughout her suit. It was a ship's beam weapon. That meant the Duchy was here. She couldn't even see what was happening, but the war was being fought right in front of her. At any moment, a cannon round could turn her body into mist. Sal laughed, before choking and starting to sob. This was bad. This was really, really bad. Of course it would end up like this. I get my hopes up, and then I die. I don't want it to end like this. I haven't even gotten to eat a real meal yet. I want to try a pancake for the first time. Am I really gonna die? Thinking of something as stupid as that? Zal! Zal! Can you hear me? Fluffy? Zal! I can hear you. Zal wrapped an arm around the plush toy as they flew towards one another. Fluffy pressed it against her chest. I'm so glad you're alive. You too. Fluffy pulled back, eyes wide. Your shoulder! It's nothing. Fluffy punched Zal's chest. It's not nothing! Zal was hailed and looked around, trying to find the nearest ship through the chaos. We gotta get out of here! Fluffy wrung her paws together. My wings aren't strong enough to pull you. Is there anything from the shuttle nearby? There should be emergency kits. Fluffy shook her head. Zal bit her lip. No matter how she racked her brain, she couldn't think of a single situation. She'd been in this position before, but never in such a helpless state. Fluffy could only give her a small nudge at least, but her battery wouldn't last. The suit was just a rudimentary model for shuttle passengers, with absolutely nothing to maneuver with. The only thing she could do was hope for rescue. In the blink of an eye, a mechanical figure in vivid paint towered over Zal and Fluffy. Hey, don't give me that look! A voice came from Zal's earpiece. I'm on your side! I'll put out my hand, okay? Grab on. Zal could only nod and do as the pilot said, reaching out to the Dragoon's hand. In the blink of an eye, it was gone. The voice that had called out to her was gone. Zal had yet to even see their face. Good morning, Sonny. I hope you don't need to be functioning anytime soon. I hope you can just vibe. I think the least lucky rabbit in the galaxy would be dead right now. So at least Zal's got that going for her. Emil followed the path of Honey's shot, her target reduced to a tiny flicker of light on her display. That must be a new distance record for you. Honey narrowed her eyes. I'm afraid I actually missed. I was aiming for the yellow one. Talk about unlucky. Emil's ears perked up. Yellow. Could that be her? Emil adjusted her display. Sure enough, she spotted a yellow Dragoon darting across the battlefield. Honeybee. Huh. So you really do exist. Such garnished colors. Its movements were fluid and nimble, far outpacing its nearby allies. She'd heard stories, but it was clear even at a glance this pilot was a cut above the rest. Though it shared the sense of aesthetics, it was noticeably different than the other lilac Dragoons Emil had seen before. It had a unique engine arrangement. Of a more delicate construction. And there was a certain morbid history to a lance like that. What was she doing with such a miserable thing? I've heard all sorts of rumors about you. As much as I'd love to be the one to put you down here and now, I can at least use you for something interesting. Emil uploaded the target data and switched her radio channel. Baron Grey, I've found you a worthy opponent. Go forth and show me your valor. Data received. With pleasure, Your Grace. Grey triumphantly swung his sword out to his side, striking a pose with his engines flaring. Baron Mosaic Grey, pilot of the Promenade Dragoon, setting forth. Emil watched as he launched forward with a glittering trail. If nothing else, his Dragoon was certainly interesting to look at. Grey came to a halt with the Yellow Dragoon's path, brashly raising his sword. I am Baron Grey, of the Duchy of Lucia. Speak your name and... Without a word, the pilot of the Honeybee tore off the Promenade's arm as it passed. So you fight without honor then? So be it! The Lucia pilot exhaled slowly, scanning over the enemy machine as it cowered behind its shield. Killing one hit was her policy. She didn't like this style of fighting. It made her spine itch. A voice cracked over her radio, forcing itself into the cockpit. It was angry, bitter, barking at her, disgusting and violent. She pushed forward on the throttle, lining up the target. Sync rate, good. Reactors, 1 and 2, good. Contamination within acceptable range. All parasites must die. Bit by bit, it was starting to give. It felt a little like peeling the shell off of an insect. That voice won't stop barking at her. Or was it pleading? Emil and Honey looked down as the Lilac Dragoon circled around for the next strike. He can't follow her movements at all. Honey raised her rifle. Shall I intervene? Absolutely not. Emil smiled. A duel is sacred after all. That voice kept barking at her. Begging? Cursing? Which one was it? The Lilac pilot pulled back her lance, driving into the side of the enemy. Won't you just be quiet? Chapter 1. Fly-by-wire. What I want to be. That's hard to answer. What I want is no longer to feel afraid. To no longer feel helpless. To have some kind of control over what happens to me. I want to help others. Like anyone. But most of all, I want to be able to live without needing the help of others. Zhao sat listlessly, staring up at the ceiling of the train carriage. Fluffy lay silent in her lap. It all felt like a strange dream. She was questioned, bandaged, and given a uniform and sent on her way. And that was the end of it. Alien scenery blurred past her out the window. Even this train felt alien. Everything here was so flat and neatly divided. Surfaces were all smooth, with no grips or handles, and sharp edges existed without the worry of anyone drifting into them. Gravity and friction. A train like this could ride a track at high speed without fear of being unable to slow down. Everything had a clear up and down. Everything could stop and start on a whim. Fluffy placed her paw on Zhao's hand. Is something wrong? Huh? Oh, no. Zhao had been clenching and unclenching her left hand this whole time. Just a habit, I guess. Does your shoulder hurt? Zhao shook her head. It feels fine. Can you believe it? Even the mess in here is amazing. Fluffy nodded. I'm glad you're feeling better. Zhao stretched her body with a long sigh, sitting up straight and pulling Fluffy to her chest. Sorry, I think I just need to sit a little while. Zhao stroked the back of Fluffy's head. I'm glad we made it here. She wasn't sure if she sounded convincing, but she needed to hear it too. That wasn't her first scary experience in space. And making it here alive? That had to count for something. Lilac Special Fleet Division Dragoon Command, Train Station, Platform 1. Zhao stepped out onto the platform. An automated message echoed around her with a reminder that this station was strictly for military personnel. Even though she was a soldier now, with a uniform and everything, it was hard to take in the idea that she belonged anywhere aboard this ship. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was all some big scam. Their test results were faked by some third party, and she was being strung along dreaming that she was really going to be a pilot. It didn't make any sense, but the reality of it didn't make any either. Still, so far, it was all the real thing. As she climbed a flight of stairs, she couldn't help but wonder, should she really feel relieved if it all is true? She'd seen what happened to soldiers, even pilots. Lilac Fleet Special Division Dragoon Command Foyer. Entering the base, Zhao was awestruck. Surrounding her was a huge glistening foyer, so far from her expectations of a military base. Everything was so polished she could see a reflection in it. The ship she grew up on was over a century old. The Zafaraltes was even older. Yet here it was, all feeling brand new. This was clearly a place for special people. Passing these special people coming in and out of the halls, Zhao hung her head, her body tense. It was impossible to feel like anything but an unwelcome outsider. But no confrontation, no scolding, no mockery, or even second glances came her way. Taking a look at it all calmly. There's always a certain order to these things. Most of the people around were wearing a different uniform than her. General staff wore simple work uniforms, guards wore fatigues, and many donned the kind of oil-stained jumpsuits she was used to wearing. But this cute black and yellow uniform only belonged to very few of the people around her, and they all carried themselves a little differently than the rest. This was a place for special people, but not everyone here was special. And I'm meant to be one of them. The young woman at the counter wore a sharp dress uniform, her eerie grin identical to the smiling faces on the recruitment posters. Zhao was taken aback by receiving a salute as she approached. With a quiet mumble, Zhao passed over the crumpled arrival forms she had kept tucked inside her spacesuit. She waited for a strange glance at her paperwork. A nod to the guard standing by the wall. She would be taken away as a fraud, and that would be the end of it. But instead, the forms were stamped and sorted into plastic trays, and she was welcomed with a cheerful, "Welcome aboard!" Zhao stood before the turnstiles to enter, signs on the wall warning of persecution for unlawful entry. She nervously swiped her ID through the gate's card reader. And to her surprise, they actually opened. Lilac Fleet Special Division Dragoon Command Women's Bathroom. Zhao examined herself in the mirror of the first bathroom she could find. Her body itched as if coated in something. But, looking at herself, she did appear reasonably well presented. Her uniform was brand new. Her hair was a little bit messy, but that was as neat as she could ever get it. So what was she feeling? She always felt it. Back home, and now here. "You look fine, I promise," Puffy chimed, patting Zhao's hair. Yeah. You've gotta keep it together. Just stay focused. I made it here alive, right? So why can't I calm down? Everything I wanted is right in front of me. Zhao focused on the directions written on the walls. She had gotten everything right today. And that's how it was everywhere else. If you can't learn it all on your first day, you don't have a chance of being allowed to come back tomorrow. Why would this be an exception? As she found her way through the twisting halls, Zhao noticed at some point the fur on her tail had stopped bristling. What exactly were her expectations for this in the first place? She knew pilots were special, but how were they treated internally? How did they treat each other? Her darkest image was like a hall full of knives, ready to cut her apart with a single misstep. Officers had every right to beat and humiliate their inferiors. But was that really how things looked here? Where were the signs that this really was a military base? Oh. Right here. Areas were divided by gates and checkpoints. Guards stood watch with rifles slung over their shoulders. But the atmosphere couldn't really be seen as hostile. If anything, this was far more relaxed than home. Raising her head, Zhao cautiously observed those wearing the same uniform as her. Just like how she was allowed to keep her pigtails and ribbons, she saw all the kinds of personal touches among the pilot's appearances. She saw the irony in her being the only one thinking it, but it struck her just how young they all looked, even compared to the general age of a soldier. While the mechanics and clerical workers trended older, some even pushing their 50s or 60s. She didn't see a single pilot looking over 30. They were almost all fresh out of high school, and they all seemed to be acting the part. A rowdy group in yellow shirts ran past her, cheering and throwing around a ball. But one of the rifle-toting guards scolded them for running in the halls. They all just laughed and continued on. Finally, arriving at her commander's office, the figure waiting outside was as far from Zhao's expectations as the base itself. Ensign Zalmira Rosales, correct? The officer inquired with a warm smile. I'm Lieutenant Susie Fotz, your commanding officer. She was a friendly-faced young woman. She didn't even seem that much older than Zhao. Zhao gave an awkward salute. At your service, ma'am. Don't worry about those kinds of formalities for now. You can call me Susie. Oh, okay. Zhao mumbled. You can call me Zhao, if that's alright. Of course. That's a lovely name. We aren't part of the regular Navy, so we have our own regulations. Susie smiled. You don't seem like the troublemaking type. So just take it easy and focus on learning as you go, alright? Yes, ma'am. You're pretty nervous, aren't you? Sorry. It's alright. It is your first day. Susie crouched a little, gazing at the plush toy hovering above Zhao's shoulder. Would you introduce me to your little friend here? Of course. This is Fluffy. Fluffy gave a salute of her own. It's a pleasure to meet you, ma'am. I won't interfere with anything today. Oh, don't worry about that. I think it's nice having androids around. Susie stood up straight, raising her clipboard. Let's get started, shall we? I don't have a lot of time at the moment, sadly, so I'll have to be brief. Zhao followed Susie down a hallway, listening intently as she started handing out papers. As she started going through papers. And handing them to her. Read these when you get the chance. This is your timeline. Susie held up a gridded sheet of paper. Your first few weeks will be a little rough, but you'll adjust sooner than you think. I enrolled you in some lectures I thought you would be helpful, that I think will help you. Zhao gave a confused look. Sorry, lectures? You don't know. I haven't really had a lot explained to me yet. I see. Well, we actually spend most of our time studying here. Your skills as a pilot are imprinted by the GI, but that's all it can do. The more conscious the information, the easier the transfer process. It doesn't go beyond what you need to fly or what you'll need in the field. Susie clasped her hands together. So, we take classes to fill in the gaps. For example, while you're connected, you'll know your way around the cockpit, every panel and instrument, just by instinct. But I didn't even know how to open my rations properly. I got food all over me in the cockpit. I'm still figuring out spacesuits, even. I almost choked once because I forgot to set the oxygen generator. I had no idea we had to wear diapers either. Zhao pushed her fingers together. I think they're cute. I mean, I'm totally used to all that. I've worked in spacesuits my whole life. It's all familiar to me. Outside of a ship? Uh-huh. I started when I was, around 14, I think. Really? I had no idea they hired people that young. Zhao counted with her fingers. I'm good with a lot of tools. Welders, bolt guns, cutters, suit maintenance, cleaning, first aid, all those sorts of things. I hope they can be useful here. Susie smiled. Of course. You've got a big leg up already if you know all of that. All sorts of things are taught here. There's fun subjects too, like cooking classes. You don't have to decide right away though. Susie adjusted her glasses. Being a pilot sounds really complicated, but really all it comes down to is being able to be in your designated place at the designated time. So as long as you do that, everything else will be easy. Susie led Zhao and Fluffy through the barracks, counting the numbers above each door. The expression on her face changed as she came to a stop. Here we are, she spoke in a quiet voice. She opened the door after a moment's pause. Lilac Fleet Division Dragoon Command, Barracks, 223. Inside was a murky, uninviting room. Light from the door creeping over the cardboard boxes piled up on every surface. Susie reached for a light switch before hesitating. These are your quarters. You'll notice all the boxes? There's a little bit of an awkward situation. The previous occupant is, no longer with us. Susie fidgeted with her clipboard. Sorry. I shouldn't mince words. She left no will. nor had any nets of kin, so... By the time we packed up all our things, we realized there was nowhere to send any of it. Most of her paperwork was left unsigned. Technically, there's no formal record that she even was in this room. There's no real protocol for this situation. I was told to tell you that it's up to you what to do with all of it. I'm not allowed to touch any of it. No, that's fine. Aside from the boxes, well, it was still the biggest room she'd ever had to herself. And to be honest, with her rotten luck, she half expected something like this anyway. Susie and Zhao stood waiting for an elevator to the hangars. The priority elevator reserved for pilots was only available for deployments. Puffy drifted over the look at the plants. It was hard to imagine her approving of the room she'd just seen. Susie turned to Zhao with a smile. So, why don't you tell me a little about yourself? Zhao rubbed her neck. I'm really bad at that. It's okay, don't force yourself. Zhao looked up at Susie with her disarming smile. It was still hard to believe she was really her commander, or even a soldier at all. I'm from the outer edges of the fleet, so this is all pretty new to me here. You seem pretty used to getting around. The ship I grew up on was a lot more complex to navigate than this. It's a lot easier to read maps here too. I see. I don't really know how to describe myself. I guess what you see is what you get? That sounds kind of bad, actually. I think that's nice. When I was picturing my commander, I wasn't exactly... I can be scary if you want me to be. But, like I said, you're not a troublemaker. Really though, I don't like being strict unless I have to. And, well, I like to think you could speak to me if you're having any troubles. I'd like us to get along. Of course, I'm really grateful. She was grateful, but did Susie really have no idea what had happened to her on the way here? Just how bad was the information network here? Did no one even care to tell her, or anyone else? If the pressure was on Zhao to disclose it, then she didn't feel like she could say anything. Glancing at herself in the elevator mirror, Zhao couldn't help but linger on the question Susie gave her. Just, who was she? What you see is what you get. In a way, isn't that true? Probably the most defining thing about me is that I wear ribbons in my hair. I even kept them inside my spacesuit for safekeeping. But what else is there? I don't think I'm very funny. I don't have much of an education. I'm good with tools, but not because I want to be. When I have spare time, all I want to do is sleep. I overthink everything, but every word out of my mouth sounds childish. I'm always anxious, or getting too excited to say something, though I don't really have anything interesting to talk about. Every time I arrive somewhere new, I try and figure out what people want from me, or I try and diminish my presence as much as possible. If I just obey orders without question and do my work quietly, no one bothers me. That's always the easiest way. I never liked any of the people I worked with, so I never got close to them. They felt the same way about me. But this isn't like those temporary jobs. I can't just disappear. I live here now. If I had to put into words, what am I really like? Zhao looked up at the paragraphs of safety information printed all over the walls, warning about the dangers of changes in gravity and heavy objects. This kind of industrial scenery was a little more like where she'd come from. You already certified for hangar safety, correct? I saw that on your file. Zhao gave an enthusiastic nod. Yep! Susie retrieved a magnetic wire gun from the wall, checking the mechanism. Alright, we won't be here long, just a quick tour. Zhao gazed through the gravity threshold up the rows of the Dragoons. Aside from the giant painted figures, it was pretty similar to the docks she worked in the past. The walls were kept in nice condition, though she could still notice the indents and scratches that inevitably built up over the years. A pair of flashing bay lights told her only a single elevator was currently in use. A handful of engineering personnel drifted about lazily, chatting amongst themselves. Susie pointed at the red-pink Dragoon. That there in Bay 3 is mine, the Strawberry. I don't think I need to explain the name. Oh wow, that's cute. We're heading for Bay 6 up at the end, right? Got it. Zhao lined up her target and darted into the air, enjoying the familiar feeling of weightlessness. You're really supposed to take a wire gun, Susie murmured, awkwardly drifting behind Zhao. Oh, I didn't really need one. As the pair passed the lined up Dragoons, Zhao noticed a figure emerging from the machine that had just arrived. It was a tall, violent-looking Dragoon. Violent-looking Dragoon that gave a different impression from the usual lilac machines, thinner and more angular, painted in a dazzling neon pink and yellow. The pilot was a tall, lanky squirrel, wrapped up in the same colors as the craft she emerged from, a heavy metal case in her hand. This was our squadron's hangar. So, would this be... Hey, is that someone I should know? Zhao asked. Susie hesitated. Oh, that's Major Valentine. She's part of our squadron. You don't need to... Zhao gave an enthusiastic wave. Hi! I'm Ensign Zamora Rosales! Without a word, the Major flew past her. Zhao landed on a pillar with a practiced somersault. Susie awkwardly fumbled with her magnetic wire gun to get a foothold. Susie sighed. Don't worry about her. The Major isn't exactly very talkative. Oh. Zhao looked down at the hangar entrance where she could see Valentine speaking to a pair of black uniformed senior officers. Even from a distance, their presence was unnerving. She looked up at Susie, grabbing onto the railing beside her. Was she out there alone? Yes. Her situation is a little difficult to describe. She's one of us. But she has her own assignments at times. We aren't allowed to ask. Oh. So how couldn't quite work out the relationship she had to their squadron? Wait, doesn't Major rank higher than Lieutenant? Susie tapped Zhao's shoulder, pointing to the hangar bay. I brought you here for this. You won't be combat ready for a few more weeks, but she's all yours. Feel free to take a closer look. A Dragoon. My Dragoon. Zhao looked up in awe. It wasn't finished. Like Susie said, the empty shoulder socket covered in a tarp, heavy cables running over its body. Even so, its figure was so imposing, so powerful. She'd seen plenty of Dragoons, but she never felt like this looking up at one. It was scary, but at the same time, it felt comforting. Running her eyes over its rabbit-like features and the gentle curves of its body, Zhao couldn't help but smile. She didn't have any say in how it would look aside from the paint, but how did it end up looking like this? A weapon probably shouldn't be cute, but it really did suit her perfectly. She came all this way to meet this machine. A machine that could protect her. A machine that she could become the heart of. She wished that Somehow, it would come to life and wrap its hand around her. So, what do you think? Susie called out to her. It's a bunny, just like me. Oh, I was wondering why the engineer picked that part. Sorry about that. Zhao smiled. I love it. That head's an old Dutchy officer type, actually. Even their decade-old components are top class, so we take them if we can get them. As for the rest, a standard 11th generation torso with reinforced armor in front of the chest. The main engines aren't fitted yet, but it'll be a wing arrangement. They'll be pretty powerful. If I had to give an overview of the performance we're trying to target, it'll be a little on the heavy side, and with a lot of thrust. The inertia of this is going to be pretty tough, but you'll be able to handle it with your score. It'll be fast and a mid-range fighter. The fluoro reactor is almost brand new, and the GI system is in really good condition, so you shouldn't get too much feedback. And Susie gazed down at Zhao as she ran her hands across the dragon's chest. You aren't really listening, are you? Susie gave a light laugh to herself. Whatever. It's a lot to take in on your first day. Alrighty. That's all we have time for today. All you need to do is go to your lockers and make sure your suit fits alright. After that, you're to leave for the rest of the day. There's some recreational facilities and such you're free to make use of too. You won't be on duty for a little while still, so don't worry. Zhao gave an affirmative nod. Okie dokie! It's been a real pleasure meeting you, Zhao. I'm glad to be welcoming a girl like you to our squadron. Thank you. That means a lot. You can find me in my office if you need anything. Have a good day, alright? Coquette Dragoon! This is a great pause point. I'm gonna check in on y'all. Hi, how you doing? How's it been so far? I hope it hasn't been too heavy. I want to say before I forget, I have a theory that the empty room that Zhao got actually was the room of the person who tried to save her but got killed. I think it was dramatic irony. Either way though, because the princess's girlfriend, who fired the one shot, was aiming at the major, but hit her instead. And I thought it was interesting because it showed Zhao and the audience that in combat, pausing for a moment, like that guy with the braces said, stopping to save someone should not be the priority. Because you could die, especially because a lot of that fighting happens on instinct. I think it's really interesting. I'm not super varying the voices because I don't want to like push my voice too much, but there's not a lot of characters I would give deep voices to. Though I will try to give the next new character that comes up a more sultry voice, so I'll try to go a little bit deeper with that one. I want to do a little bit of variation if I can. We'll see how it goes. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I think I'm gonna try and get some sleep. Have a good night, everybody. Have a good night, Specky, and congratulations on finishing your game. I'm glad you were able to submit it for your class. I'm very proud of you. Have a good night and rest well. Wow, I relate to this a bit, or at least the fear and paranoia and desire to diminish my presence. Yeah, sometimes existing in a space with others can be really hard. And it reminded me of Eva and like how Shinji tries to like follow orders and do what he's told and just try to like coast by on just like being a tool, you know? being useful. I think it's very relatable. Thank you for checking in. I think I'm holding together. I've been playing Splatoon Big Run, and the tension might be making me anxious and mixed with the story, but it's... I think I might have been dissociating. Drinking water. This is a dissociation-friendly chat. That's totally valid. It can be a lot to take in for sure. Oh, let me also stretch. Ah. Alright. I like that pause point. It was really nice. I should probably get another snack and try to unwind for bed, but I shouldn't have to shop tomorrow. Just want to melt into dissociation through comfort instead. It's nicer dissociation. Dissociation isn't bad, necessarily. Sometimes it's nice to give your brain a break, you know? I hope shopping isn't too hard on you today. It's unethical to be comforted by what amounts to being given a gun. But seeing that Dragoon, I can feel something changing in me. It's beginning to sink in. Less than 1 in 10,000 are chosen. And I'm one of them. That machine. If I'd had that machine, I wouldn't have this hole in my shoulder. I didn't just jump into this without doing the research. The Dragoon isn't like other weapons. Regular bullets can't even scratch it. It's a special machine. For special people. All those who live in war are destined to suffer. But, even if a little, I want to be able to control my own fate. Puffy glided beside Zhao. You seem happy. I guess I am. Susie's so nice. I didn't expect to meet anyone like her here. Speaking to a kind face felt like coming up for air. I guess she helped clear some of my doubts. Puffy gave an unsure smile. Yeah. Timidly shuffling through the locker room, Zhao froze the moment she entered. Under the searing fluorescent lighting was the squirrel-tailed major from earlier. There was no way she had noticed Zhao's entrance, but she didn't look up at her. Frozen in place, Zhao quickly scanned the numbers printed on the lockers of for the number printed on her ID card. Ah, of course, my locker is right in front of her. Zhao slid past the major with her head turned, arriving at the tall plastic panel box. How do I open this? There's no lever or button or anything to unlock it. Zhao flinched at the officer's voice from behind her. Insert your card right there. Then pull on from both sides. Oh! Did she just... Oh! Zhao did as she was told and pulled on the handles, sliding out the entire mechanism. Thank you. I see. It's like a big drawer. The inside was much more complex than what she was familiar with, though she'd heard about devices like this. A fully self-contained system combining a storage, cleaning, and maintenance unit all in one. Her knowledge on suit care was rendered obsolete in an instant. Zhao reached inside, feeling at the hung-up pilot suit. Running the material between her fingers, it was hard to believe a spacesuit could feel like this. were the suits where she was used to really that old? Were the suits she was used to really that old? Just a few meters of this material probably had a higher value than her net worth. Peeking around the corner, the Major was still sitting there fiddling with her boots. You might not have heard me, but I'm Zhao. Sima Valentine. I already knew your name. I see. It's nice to meet you. Sima's voice was so quiet. She was so tall and beautiful. Her tail was so big. I bet it's super fluffy under there. Zhao didn't mean to be staring, but... Is she stuck? Do you need any help? Sima stopped moving. Yes. I'm good with spacesuits, so... Zhao stepped closer to her. Tail seals can be tricky. Tail seals can be tricky, can't they? Not that I really know, since I don't really need one like this. Zhao crouched behind her, gingerly placing her hands on the tail seal. It was normal for people to help each other with their suits, and there was plenty that were difficult to put on without assistance. But still, in this situation, with a twist of Zhao's trembling hand, the seal came off. Very easy. Was it hard for her because it's behind her back? There! All done. Without a word, Sima pulled off the tail covering before reaching for the seal below her neck. Hey! I suppose I should thank you. No, it's nothing. All I did was unclip it. Looking at Zhao for the first time, Sima's face twitched. Her tail tilted curiously. Come here a moment. Huh? Zhao did as she said, inching closer to her. Sima leant over her, lowering her eyebrows and examining her face. Zhao held her breath as Sima's burning magenta eyes scanned across her, a dark scowl forming on her face. Her detached presence had dissolved entirely, and she glared down at Zhao as if to size her up. Are you? Sima began to murmur. Am I what? Zhao stood frozen in front of her, but no response came. When Zhao opened her eyes, Sima was turning away. Forget it. It's nothing. Like a storm that had passed as quickly as it arrived, Sima returned to her languid, disinterested self. Zhao held back a nervous laugh. From start to finish, what was any of that bizarre exchange? Looking at herself in the mirror with her suit on, she'd never worn a suit so light and streamlined, though its featureless shape felt a bit naked. The sound of Sima showering softly echoed through the room. Her outfit was really cool. I'll have to find something to wear over mine too. How exactly was she meant to feel wearing this? It was incredibly comfortable. She turned her body and raised her arms up and down with ease. She'd never worn a spacesuit so flexible. It felt really nice. Zhao really did like to wear spacesuits. The snug feeling all over her body always gave her a sense of security. But was that sense of comfort really what she should be thinking about? Zhao ran her fingers over her shoulder. The reason it was so light was because you wore it surrounded by armor. Because the pilot needed that flexibility to react in combat. This was a soldier's uniform. Wearing something like this, does it change you? wearing this. It's another point of no return, isn't it? Bloody images flickered through her mind. Was she gonna die wearing this? Zhao pressed her hands onto her cheeks. Just keep calm. Zhao heard Sima step out of the shower. She stood motionless as she listened to her get dressed. She could only breathe once she left. That exchange with her. What was that about? I know people are paranoid about spies and all that, but this felt different. It was like looking for something. Something deep inside me. Just what did I look like to her? Light Fleet Special Division Mess Hall? Zal's lunch, spaghetti and meatballs. Zhao sat slumped over a cafeteria table, gazing into meat. Fuffy lay asleep on the table beside her. With the excitement of everything wearing off and nothing left to do, her body felt incredibly heavy. She'd never spent so long in gravity before. It wasn't her first time, but it still felt strange that she could walk. Kids in the past had to learn that, didn't they? She'd heard once that the original members of humanity couldn't grow properly without gravity. Their bodies would be warped, most likely, to the point of an extremely early death, if they could even survive birth. Even for an adult, without gravity, their hearts would be slowly destroyed, their bones and muscles eaten away. Though her body was perfectly accustomed to life with or without the force of gravity, it was hard to shake that feeling that her life up until now was spent in an unnatural condition. Everything felt natural here. Everything felt so still, even with people bustling around her. Most of the tables were occupied by other pilots, chatting away happily and laughing with each other. It was a little hard to believe that they were really fighting a war. Zhao prodded at her food with a fork. Despite how eager she was before she came, she couldn't really find the will to start eating. And she didn't fully know how either. Eating utensils were a sight unseen in 0G. The food Zhao was used to was designed to minimize time spent between its packaging and their mouth. How exactly was a fork held? Was it like a pen grip? It didn't come as naturally as knowing how to walk did. She knew pasta was eaten with a spoon too, but she couldn't really see how. Are you meant to drink the sauce without it? She's seen plenty of people eat with cutlery on television, but she never really paid attention to the exact movements. It's not like she ever believed she got the chance to try in reality either. Zhao jumped as the tray landed on the table beside her. Hey, a wide-eyed girl stood above Zhao. She's probably not Fox. A wide-eyed girl stood above Zhao, burying her fangs between a pair of parted lips. Her grinning face was half covered with her dyed hair, and the buttons on her shirt were undone in a way Zhao knew had to be against even a pilot's lax dress code. Of all the people here that failed to meet the image of a soldier, this was the lowest score by far. The pointy-eared girl flopped into the chair opposite Zhao. You smoke? I do, yeah. I don't have any on me, though. Rip. Anyway, you're the new girl, right? In Susie's squadron? Yeah. We're comrades, then. I was told to look for a pink-haired bunny. Oh, you can just call me Zhao. Oh, that's a cute name. She grinned, holding a fry to her mouth. I'm Ayane. Bowl of fries with tomato sauce and seemingly nothing else. Ayane's lunch. Right. So, how'd testing go for you? Okay, I think. I had pretty bad headaches for a while though. If that's all, then lucky you. I felt like I was gonna die. Zhao fidgeted with her fork. I'm still not used to it. Oh, neural connection idea? It's hard to believe I'll just be able to fly. You'll be fine. Probably. Aren't you gonna eat? Yeah, Zhao anxiously balled a fist against her fork, leaning against her plate. Ayane watched her from across the table with a smile. Am I doing it wrong? Ayane held back a grin. And a laugh. You look kinda like a little kid. Hey! Sorry, but it's really cute. Zhao pouted, jabbing her fork into a meatball. She could manage this much at least. As she began to taste it, her eyes lit up in amazement. This flavor? This texture? This tastes so good! I think this is the nicest thing I've ever eaten. Really? Ayane seemed genuinely surprised. Cafeteria spaghetti? Is food that bad on the fringes? I guess. It's pretty obvious where I'm from, huh? Don't worry about it. Most pilots are the same as you. Zhao looked down at her dish. I see. Ayane scooted across the table to sit beside Zhao. Here. Ayane held her hand above Zhao's. I'll show you how if you want. Sure. Like playing with a doll, Ayane pulled Zhao's fingers around the fork, resting her thumb on the top and index finger underneath. It seems easy to people like me, but I guess it'd be like trying to hold a pen properly if you've never touched one in your life, right? Yeah. I see. I'm not really good with pens either, honestly. When you see long pasta, turn the fork like this so it wraps around. Ayane demonstrated, rotating Zhao's hand. If it trails off, you'll flick sauce onto your top. You'll get it all over your face. Well, not really, not that I really care myself, but I'm always being told to eat like a pig. Zhao did her best to follow her lead, though her hand wasn't used to it. It did make sense at least. This is harder than it looks. Don't feel embarrassed when I'm the one eating this garbage. Ayane plucked one of her fries from the bowl in front of her. I probably got salt on your hands. Sorry. No, don't worry. Ayane slid the bowl towards Zhao. Feel free to have some if you like. Zhao smiled. Sure. Finger food is much more my comfort zone. Zhao chewed happily on the salty potato. These are really good. Right? You can't feel anything. Right? You can't get anything deep fried for real on those smaller ships. Ayane pointed towards Fluffy, still dozing off in front of Zhao. Also, the critter? Is it asleep? I think so. Fluffy opened an eye. Don't talk with your mouth full. Ayane grinned. So it lives. I'm Fluffy. I'm only half asleep. I'm absorbing the passive electricity in the air. Ayane grabbed Fluffy by the arm, holding her up and examining her. Aren't you cute? Ayane narrowed her eyes, a devilish smile forming on her face. You don't see many plushies around here. You're well made, too. Early model by the looks of it. Probably worth a lot, huh? Hey! I'm not for sale. But you belong to Zhao, right? I made a promise to look after her. Ayane stuck out her tongue. How romantic. Zhao reached out and patted Fluffy's head with a gentle smile. She's been with me forever. Can you little guys eat? I want to feed you a chip. Unfortunately, no. I wish you could try the spaghetti. Zhao carefully returned her empty tray. Ayane simply tossed hers at the pile. They had finished eating together, but Ayane was still hanging around. Zhao held her fingers together, stuttering. Hey, I'd really like for us to be friends if you wanted. Ayane gave a long exhale. You know, it's a little sad to ask like that. I'm sorry. I just meant since we're in the same squadron and... I didn't say no, weirdo. Come on. You can buy me cigarettes. Zhao anxiously followed behind Ayane, and she held her through the halls with a self-assured stride. The thick scent of perfume trailed her. Another thing Zhao wondered if pilots were really allowed to wear. I can give you the whole tour if you want. Not that there is anything interesting to see. Yeah! You're a little shy, aren't you? I guess so. Don't be. Being pal sounds fine to me. Ayane flicked her hair. You've gotta trust who you fly with, right? Yeah. So, you know, we already have an extra special bond. You know. Ayane gave Zhao a grin. You got a good score, right? I think so. Then I'll be relying on you to cover me. Of course. Zhao shrunk a little. Not that I can even imagine fighting right now. It's pretty wild, isn't it? I'm still not used to it. But whatever. I don't really like thinking about it. No? Yeah, I get that. How are you finding the place? Well, you can imagine, right? Zhao scratched her cheek. Everything is pretty new to me here. It's also clean and flashy. But at the same time, I've kind of seen it all on TV already anyway. Zhao stretched out her hands. I think I'm kind of still trying to get used to just being in gravity before anything else. Zhao looked at Ayane as she talked, expecting to see a bored expression. Her ears were perked up in attention, and she nodded along with Zhao's words. There's a lot of small things I never really thought about. This will sound kind of silly, but I never really noticed the height difference in people much before. When you walk around in 0G, you usually meet at eye level. I never even really noticed that it was a habit everyone had until now. But now that I'm here, I'm looking up at everyone. Ayane leant over with a laugh. You are pretty shrimpy. I like to think of it as a charm point. It is. You're nice and bite-sized to a carnivore like me. Ayane grabbed Fluffy. You're just a chicken nugget waiting to be eaten. Hey! Be nice to her. Ayane released Fluffy with a laugh. I am being nice. Sounds of churning metal and the stinging scent of fuel filled the air. The sound beneath Zhao's feet rumbled as they ascended. Zhao looked up at Ayane as she happily kicked her feet, sitting atop a crate bristling with high explosive warnings. She hummed to herself, completely detached from the surrounding missile racks and soldiers in hazmat gear. Are we really allowed to be here? Zhao laughed, resigned to the situation. Sure we are. Pilots can go anywhere. This is a nice shortcut up a few levels. Alright, I met our CO, Susie. I mean, she seems really nice. Susie's my fucking mom. I love her. She gives me snacks anytime I ask for them. And you say you were like a little... And you said I was like a little kid. Ayane pointed at one of Zhao's pigtails. Yeah? Never mind. And I did get a pretty strong mom vibe from her. Susie is really nice, though. I get to slack off a lot since it's easy to get out of trouble with her. You must be what she meant by troublemakers, then. I mean, Valentine, too. Yeah, she is. Well, you met her. Yeah. Zhao leaned on a box, looking up at Ayane. So, is there anything I should really know? About what? About all this? Being a pilot? I don't know. Don't get shot? Don't do anything that'll get you shot? Just try not to get shot. Alright, we're jumping off here. Ayane casually hopped off the edge of the elevator. Zhao darted to the railing, looking down at Ayane. Wait a second! Ayane grinned up at her. I said jumping off! So jump! Zhao cautiously swung her legs over the edge. Alright! Catch me! Hey, wait! Zhao and Ayane both lay sprawled out on the floor together, rubbing their heads. Zhao fretfully looked up at Ayane as they both sat up, but she expected to be met with a scowl. Ayane burst out laughing. You really are something. I'm sorry. Wiping a tear from her eye, Ayane just sighed. It's all good. All good. Just warn me next time. I thought I did. Fluffy fluttered down and landed beside Sal. Are you two alright? Ayane patted Fluffy's head. We'd be better if we had cute little wings like yours. Really though? Are you okay? Ayane looked at Zhao. Yeah. Zhao rubbed her knees. I'm fine. Good. Ayane flicked open a compact, examining her makeup. Zhao gave an awkward laugh. You look fine, I think. Ayane stood up, holding out a hand for Zhao and pulling her to her feet. You owe me more than a few cigarettes now. I think. That's fair, right? Yeah, sure. You really ought to be more careful. Yeah. Keep close. Door for emergency use only. Keep close. Door for emergency use only. Hey, are we really meant to be back here? Just ignore it. checking in and out as a pain. What? Wait, don't doors like this usually have alarms? Ayane made a snipping motion with her fingers. It used to. Don't go telling anyone about it, okay? As Al stepped out of the rustic corridor, she was bombarded with light and a radiant color. The tempting scents of plants and fried food carried on the breeze. Her mind occupied by all the tension of today and yesterday. Zhao hadn't been able to take in the surroundings aboard the Zapmoralities at all. The ceiling stretched above her as far as she could see, until it all became a void of light. Trees and buildings lined the pathway sprawling out before her. Above the rows of billboards, painted clouds dotted the whole walls. Only a few unconceivable pipes broke up the crafted sky. This whole area was bigger than some of the ships she'd lived on. The maze of corridors and elevators in the base was just like home on a flat plane, but this? There's so much empty space. Just for that feeling. Looking up at Ayane, her eyes held no curiosity. What Zhao found almost overwhelming wasn't anything interesting to her. Ayane led Zhao into a small convenience store, immediately filling her arms with packets of chips and chocolates. Zhao looked over the magazine covers. It was the same as what she was used to, really. Celebrity gossip, television, barely concealed propaganda, and nothing of any real substance. Your usual. The elderly cashier asked Ayane, holding up a pack of cigarettes for her. Mm-hmm. Zhao, are you getting anything? Ayane grinned at the cashier. She's my new squad mate. Zhao pointed to a pink-colored box of cigarettes behind the glass. Just these, thanks. Remember, you're paying. The cashier laughed. She's not hazing you, is she, darling? No? Sorta? Ayane sighed and leaned over Zhao's back, placing a fistful of bills on the counter. I don't haze anymore, since I'm a good girl. Huh? I don't mind playing, really. Ayane hung her shoulders. It was sorta just a joke. Consider it a welcome aboard gift. Ayane winked at the cashier. And hey, don't I qualify for a loyalty discount by now? You can take a free government newspaper. No thanks. I already have plenty of toilet paper. Ayane lit a cigarette the moment she walked out of the store. Zhao mimicked her, putting a pastel pink cigarette in her mouth. Her hand reached into an empty pocket. Oh, I don't have a lighter on me. Ayane tossed out a shiny metal lighter. Here. Thanks. Even fire burns differently here. Zhao took a satisfied drag from her cigarette. She hasn't really thought about it all day, but she always leant on cigarettes when she was working. As she exhaled, something in the corner of her eye stopped her in her tracks. She'd seen these before, plenty of times. She even had if he was a kid, but... Zhao stood before a hobby shop, staring with her mouth open at the poster beside the entrance. They really sell those here? Ayane turned back at her. Model Dragoons? Yeah, they sure do. I mean, here. Isn't this kinda... Stepping back as the door opened, Zhao flinched as she noticed the kid walking out and staring up at the insignia on her shoulder. Ayane grinned and flashed the kid a peace sign, scaring him off. They love us here. It's pretty annoying. Zhao chewed on her cigarette. I never really thought about any of this. Don't get seen here too often or the kids will start asking for your autograph. Ayane grimaced. Some creep. Adult, I mean, asked if he could start sending me fan letters once. Are we like celebrities here? I wouldn't go that far. Ayane mulled it over. Depends if you want to buddy up with the propaganda department. You can get on TV if you suck up to them enough. I only just realized. I had never seen a pilot in person before today. They don't get stationed on small ships. I sort of had an idea that we had status, but this is just too weird. Isn't being looked up to kids kinda totally fucked? Annie drew a line with her hand on the top of Zhao's head. Well, they don't have to look up very far for you. Hey! I'm serious! It is totally fucked. Isn't that Susie's Dragoon? Yeah. She's got one of the good ones. Figures. It makes sense they make a toy of it. If I left one on her desk, it might be pretty funny. She hates those things. Good ones? Yeah. Here's a little military secret. You're not supposed to know about this one. Dragon parts are secretly graded. Better scoring pilots get better parts though. You can tell they look pretty... Dragon parts are secretly graded. Better scoring pilots get better parts though. You can tell that pretty easily from the flimsy piece of shit they make me fly in. Don't worry, you got a good one too. You might get a toy pretty soon if you fly it well. I want one with a little figure of you and Fuffy to go with it. Gross. Sitting under a tree together, Ayane watched Zhao as she ran her hands through the grass. Does it feel nice? I guess. I mean, it's not like I've ever seen a plant before. I can't tell if this grass is real or fake, though. Ayane laid out all her bags of snacks. Here, help yourself. Your little welcome party. Thank you. I don't know what to try first. I love potato chip, corn chip, all varieties of chip. Zhao watched Ayane greedily pick from each bag. Parts of Ayane reminded her of girls that would bully her. She was haughty, confident, and ill-mannered, and she had always gotten away with all of it. So, how long have you been a pilot for? Ayane looked up, counting with her fingers. Like 7 months, I think. Oh. Things are pretty relaxed here, aren't they? Sure are. Outside of drills and class, until we get our marching orders, pilots can do whatever they want, and we still get a pretty fat paycheck. Ayane leant back, tossing a chip into her mouth. So, we're being paid to sit on our big fat asses and eat potato chips. Isn't this war delightful? I don't think we're gonna be deployed before you've had a test flight. And they're still putting together your Dragoon, so your arrival means I get to relax a little longer. Ayane went straight from her chips to her cigarette. I'd love to live like this without ever risking my life, but... well... you probably don't want to hear stuff like that on your first day. It's okay. Zhao took a potato chip. It had a strange, sweet taste to it. The labels on everything Ayane had brought were all incomprehensible novelty flavors. When she looked at what she had just eaten, it was apparently meant to be flavored like a donut. I wish you could try these, Zhao smiled at Fluffy. Fluffy gave a disinterested smile. Yeah. The things Ayane had said, they probably made Fluffy feel worse. She wasn't as adaptable as Zhao. She'd probably seen a lot today to dishearten her. Zhao tried a different flavored chip. It tasted fairly normal at first, but had a peculiar aftertaste. This was apparently meant to be like beer. The last 2 days felt completely frenzied, but it wasn't wholly different from her life in the past, especially when she started her new job. It was getting to sit down like this and relax afterwards that was new. And like Ayane had said, she was being paid to do it too. Without having to do a thing, she would make in a week what that old lady selling cigarettes would make in months. It was impossible to internalize this. All of this. Was her life now almost being torn apart without anyone even realizing? Being able to laze around like this without any consequences. All of it felt so contradictory. The wound in her shoulder itched. How did it weigh up? She'd been injured before, and never got anything from it. Was being here worth that bit of pain? She thought that she had to work hard to figure something out to get here. And all hard work got her was pain, humiliation, and dead. She'd take a job for a few $100s, and all of it would go straight back into suit repairs or paying off bills. Her savings never increased, nor did her qualifications or experience. No matter how hard she had worked, or no matter for how long, it never could have brought her here. Hard work was completely worthless. And the values Zhao possessed in the end had nothing to do with her character or determination. The GI mechanism within the Lilac Dragons was a brute force system that turned an ordinary human into a complex formation processing and control unit. A bleeding edge technology that allowed the disorganized Lilac forces to fight on equal terms with the enigmatic duchy. But it was a system that only a tiny handful of humans were qualified for. Of the people that could even survive its operation, even fewer were able to make meaningful use of it, or avoid permanent neurological damage. Against all odds, without even having had any particular talents, Zhao possessed what 1 in 10,000 quality. That enormous machine she looked up at earlier, without so much as needing a manual, she could make it dance like a ballerina. No matter how many times she was told that, she still couldn't believe it was true. Zhao gazed up at the tree branches above her. Fluffy had flown off on her own, examining the leaves. Of all the chips Zhao tried, the extremely spicy chicken burger flavor was probably her favorite. It wasn't actually spicy at all, though. A lot on your mind, huh? Yeah. You want to hang out, so let's chat, yeah? So sorry, I'm just kinda, trying to take everything in, I guess. Thinking too much is poison. Especially here. Ayane pointed her cigarette at Zhao in accusation. Yeah. I don't know what to talk about, though. Ayane crossed her legs, reaching for another bag of chips. Well, just say what's on your mind, then. Everything here feels just a little too good to be true. But at the same time, I'm scared, too. Zhao rubbed her face. Sorry, I didn't mean to drag things down. It's okay. Even if you weren't a pilot, it's still a pretty crazy move, right? I'd do okay in zero gravity, but if I had to move a ship without any... Oh, I do okay in zero gravity, but if I had to move a ship without any... Ayane laughed a little at her imagination of things. All things considered, you seem to be dealing with it pretty well, I guess. Yeah, I'm not used to jobs I can slack off on either. She leant forward, clutching her knees. Is there really nothing we should be doing right now? Ayane took a long drag. There's all sorts of things you can volunteer for if you want. I wouldn't bother with any of it. I couldn't care less about the war effort, doing my part, any of that shit. I mean, we've already lost, right? And I just want to enjoy myself while I can. Lilac Fleet Special Division, Dragon Command, Pilot Barracks 223. Sal spread out on her new bed. A bed in gravity. It was comfortable, but not as much as she had hoped it would be. It felt like the weight was pressing down on her. Buffy was nestled at her side. Unlike Zao, she could sleep whenever she chose to. Zal's shoulder itched. She undid the buttons of her shirt, pulling it down over her shoulder, then peeled back the sticky plastic gel dressing. At first, her fingers moved with a curious stroke across the wound, and then dug in, as if to push straight through and into bone. Even though she watched the doctor pull it out, it felt like that piece of metal was still inside her, cutting her as she moved, poisoning her blood. But her wound was already healed. It didn't hurt at all, even as she clawed at it. It felt like something stuck to her, something that she couldn't just scratch or scrape away. Everything today felt warped and perverse. This was the heart of the violent patriotism that had been driven into her surroundings like a knife. And yet, Ayane was the most seditious person she'd ever met. Susie acted like a pleasant teacher, not the person who would be marching Zao to her death. Sima was a total oddity, as if she was living in another world entirely. The faces of the pilots she saw today were all laughing, chatting over lunch, reading books, or playing around. No one here cared at all. Not about what was going to happen to them, and not about what they were being made to do. I was almost killed and nobody noticed. I saw somebody die in front of me, and nobody cares. That's what I thought today. But those are just my selfish feelings. Everyone here is experiencing that same thing, and they don't care. They kill, and they don't care. They die, and they don't care. I saw someone die. Do I care? I shrug it off. That's not the first time I've even seen it. I almost died. Do I care? It's fine. I've been hurt worse than this. I saw that Dragoon, and I felt good. I felt powerful. I felt like I had some control. I feel like I'm being infected by something. The attitude you need to survive this place. Those other pilots all act normal. Just unremarkable people, just like me. The special quality that lets you be a pilot doesn't come with anything else. It doesn't mean you're cut out to be a soldier. It doesn't prepare you for anything. And they're all just forced to keep doing it. No matter how I feel, I'll be forced to do it. Do I really care either way? Am I really gonna survive this? The Duchy of Lucia. Within the walls of the Duchy Manor, Princess Emile held a pose as the sunset crept across her body. Lady Honey Rose examined Emile's face, a half-formed portrait of the princess gazing out the window on her canvas. Honey pushed her brush into her palette. I meant to tell you, we've been given an invitation to Gray's funeral. Not that his body was able to be retrieved. Do we really need a service for that cretin? Leading a pointless attack on Lilac and losing half his men? Endangering the crown princess? Moi. Then dying like a dog without as much as getting a single swing in? His family is finished. And what? All of this stupidity for my sake? I'm meant to be happy. I'm meant to be impressed. How many times has something like this happened already? All from disgusting people like that. That man was old enough to be my father. Emile sneered, mimicking her would-be suitors. Princess, watch me fight! Princess, may I have this dance? Princess, won't you have dinner with me? Please accept this gift. I bought a horse, a car, a whole mansion, just for you. I love you. I've always been in love with you, ever since the day we met. Emile held her fist to her chest, breathing heavily. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all these people, all these gifts, all these invitations. All of you. All of you. Just drop dead! Emile, I sympathize. I really do. But please stop changing poses. End of Chapter 1. Hello, 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 good little space viewers. Wasn't our debut grand? It wasn't our first time, you know. Though they probably don't even remember us. Huh? Well, we did look pretty different back then. What are you talking about? Forget it. Just stick to the prompt. Alright. How'd you enjoy the first episode of Coquette Dragoon? It was a little bleak, wasn't it? Maybe. But wasn't Zhao and Ayane's budding little friendship so sweet? They already touch hands and everything. Yeah, how intimate. Won't you play with my hands, Philly? You already know how to use a knife and fork. Then, how about spoon feeding me instead? Give it a rest. You love me. I almost certainly do not. Oh, so withholding. So completely incapable of honest communication. That's what I love about you. Anyway, time for a segment we like to call Author's Notes. Hello, I'm Ivy. Thank you so much for reading this chapter. Coquette Dragoon has had a complicated road, which some readers might remember. Originally, Coquette was a comic series, but I only ever got the first chapter finished as a comic. You notice a lot of CGs in this chapter are pretty crunchy, since I reused a lot of my old comic. Work to add as visuals for this. It's not work I especially like looking at now, knowing I can draw a lot cleaner, but it seemed a shame to let that work go to waste. After making chapter 1 as a comic, I transitioned to an illustrative prose, or light novel if you prefer, format for chapters 2 and 3, but eventually got frustrated with that format too, until I discovered there was a much better way to present text/image in a digital medium: the visual novel. Ultimately, what spurred the change more than anything was learning 3D, which suddenly opened up a way to produce quality backgrounds quickly and cheaply. I've never been good at drawing backgrounds, so the thought of producing 50 plus full screen size pieces for a visual novel was pretty much impossible. So here you have Coquette in its final definitive form. I couldn't do comics because hand wrist issues meant the drawing workload was impossible. I wasn't satisfied with that as a prose either. Visual novels strike the perfect balance, however, while also allowing for so much more. I can't believe Coquette turned into such an elaborate production while still being pretty comfortable to work on. Thank you for reading, and I look forward to showing you more soon. Nuts time on Coquette Dragoon. A heartwarming tale of girls, friendship, and among the enemy ranks. Chapter 2, Artificial Soul Genealogy. Thanks for reading. To be continued. That was pretty nice. I hope you all liked it. I wonder just how things will advance.